Joining me in studio now, afternoon personality for the Big DM and providing some local flavor on the D.L. Hughley Show, Curtis Wilson. A pleasure.
Hi there. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, it's very interesting that you wear that uniform because I would declare I've seen a guy who looks like you. He's the lieutenant with the Richland County Sheriff's Department. He looks just like you.
I get that a lot.
But Curtis Wilson, you are one of the most fascinating broadcasters in the industry, one who certainly seizes every opportunity to share your gift with people. Introduce yourself to those who would not know Curtis Wilson, but for those who may not.
Let's see. Of course, longtime personality for the Big DM, and then also working with University of South Carolina, the Gamecocks men and women's basketball team, also the men's baseball team. Working with Benedict College, men's basketball, women's basketball, and also the football team over there. Ridgeview High School football, and some other things out there as well. But, of course, the job that a lot of people see me with and in as the public information officer with the Richland County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, one might ask, how do you do it all? You know, what is your recipe for success in keeping all of this together?
You know, you got to love what you do. That's so important. I try to talk to kids when I go to schools all the time, or even young adults, about whatever it is that you want to do. Make sure it's something that you're going to enjoy doing, because if you enjoy doing it, it's not going to feel like work. And that's so true. I mean, you look at those who are happy at their jobs, and you can tell they stay young, they look young, they feel young, and they're happy every single day. And that's what I try to strive for, is to never stop learning, being happy, and do the things that I do every single day that I enjoy.
How in the world do you have time to be a lieutenant and then a broadcaster, and then you're also involved in the community?
Yeah, it's moderation. You got to be able to work these hours out so that it all fits, you know, and it doesn't wear you out. For me, my days start early and they end pretty late. So people always ask, the $1 million question is, when do you sleep? I make sure that I get enough. You know, my body tells me.
I think Curtis has more than 24 hours in his day. I think that's what it is.
That's what it is, for sure.
You have 48 hours in one day.
That's right, absolutely.
Talk to us a little bit about your broadcasting career, and which came first, broadcasting or the police department?
Well, broadcasting. Okay. Growing up in New York, it was something I always wanted to do as a little kid, was to be a radio announcer. I used to pretend to be a DJ that was on the radio. You know, my mom used to give me the broom. Go sweep you and clean your room. And I take that broom and go in there, and the radio was on, and I pretend that broom was my microphone.
Oh, my goodness.
I wanted to be that DJ, and I was able to make that happen, you know. Fortunate enough, blessed enough to be able to get into radio. I went to a little tech school in New York. It was the New York School of Announcing and Speech for Broadcast, and went there, 6-month course. Learned the basics of radio, and they also had a little bit of television too. And I think that's how I got into the TV aspect of things, was going to that school, and it taught me just enough to get my foot into the door to work in a radio station in Virginia. I went to Virginia, left New York and went there.
What about today? What would a person need to do to train to be in this business?
It's totally different now. It's totally changed.
It is.
You know, you used to be able to break in as a beginning radio announcer, but now it's so different with, you know, you have voice tracking. You got, what is that called? The satellite radio guys doing their thing. And then you got syndication going on. All of these different venues are ways for one person to work on 20, 30, hundreds of stations at one time. And that takes jobs away from individuals who are trying to break into the business.
Right.
So if you're in school now, I mean, seriously, you really, when people say think outside the box, you got to go way outside the box nowadays in order to be a radio personality. And it's not even about diction and pronunciation anymore, because you have people speaking all kinds of ways on radio today. So it's more about personality and attitude and what you can bring to the table that's different than the person to the left, right, and in front and behind you.
Exactly.
If you could bring something different, that's a niche that's missing, then yeah, you got a chance. But if you're doing something that, you know, Sally over there is doing and Joe over there is doing, announcing what the song is and the weather today, you got to bring something. You got to bring something different to get in and catch the attention of the program director.
Exactly. I don't think there's anyone in the industry who is a broadcasting lieutenant.
Right.
That's what you bring to the table. No.
See, you know, for me.
But you have a great perspective.
You know, getting out into the community, knowing your community, knowing who the shakers and the movers are, finding out what's happening, being able to look around that corner and see what people are going to be talking about, and you put that down, oh my gosh, you're gonna open doors. And that's what did it for me, being here, coming here and doing morning radio for so long back in the day. I made it a point to shake hands and know people. And that just paved the way for me to open up doors to do a lot of other things.
Okay, so that's great advice because a lot of people think, oh, I just want to be on the radio.
Yeah,
I just want to, just give a shout out to someone or just, play some songs.
No, community involvement is so important.
Right.
Meet and shake hands and know what's happening and know people. For me, again, being in a work, city job, state job, county job, I worked all of them. You know what I mean? And that led me to television because I was on the radio and I got a call from the general manager over at the news station down the street. He says, hey, how about would you like to come be a news anchor? Never did television before in my life.
Did.
And it's also unheard of.
You did so well.
Yeah, it was unheard of to go from radio and jump straight into an anchor's chair.
Especially
reporters
with no
work
experience.
Hard. Yeah. Reporters work hard to get that slot.
Yeah.
So it was, again, fortunate and a blessing for me to be able to do that. And that was because of my community involvement. He knew that I was out there in the community all the time. And, it didn't matter what color you were. You knew the name Curtis Wilson because I was out there shaking hands.
Exactly.
And that's what did it for me.
Okay. What do you think would be next for Curtis Wilson?
I get that a lot, too.
I don't know if there's any more room for you to, so what do you think?
I want to teach. I want to teach what I know,
Okay.
I got to get the master's first in order to do that. But you would think with all my experience, someone would just go ahead and bestow that upon me so that I can go ahead and start teaching.
Lifetime experience.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I want to give back and teach them, and especially those who are really hungry and want to do this job, because you got a lot of folks now, because remember, you crawl, you walk, you run. A lot of folks want to go from crawling straight to running.
Yes.
And they miss the basic stuff that they need in order to survive and sustain in this business.
Yes.
Because without that, you're going to burn out quick.
But
if you get the basic knowledge down, longevity is forever for you,
Yes. Curtis Wilson, my coworker, and a pleasure always.
Pleasure.
Thank
you.
you. He has such a busy schedule. I'm honored that you would take time out of your schedule to come here and share.
I appreciate it. Anytime.